Episode 39. I'm not looking forward to this at all because, based on the title, it's just going to remind me of how horribly off the Chaotix are outside of Archie, where they're actually respectable characters. They're heroes, where Knuckles is friends. In the games and X, they're just stupid comedy characters, which is not necessary. A guy panics because a house lands on his house, and someone tells the president that some buildings have landed in mystic ruins, and some flickies have shown up. This is so arbitrary! It's not like Sonic was on Mobius and used Chaos Control again. That's dumb! Chuck assumes that the President and Secretary plan on dealing with the new alien arrivals. I like how cynical he sounds about it. I'm cynical for a different reason. It's obvious that the only reason these Sonic elements are appearing is the meta one of, it's still a Sonic show, but it's set on Earth instead of Mobius like it should be, so they have no natural way of justifying their showing up from another world. That's why it's a problem that it's set on Earth. It just can't work naturally. At least Penders explained that the barriers between zones were weakened by the Ultimate Annihilator, and Fleetway explains that it happened because of Eggman trying to fuse Nazar and Mobius to rule the worlds. Here there's no explanation for why the barriers between zones are weakening. It's just dumb, and it's very off-putting that there's no explanation for it. Worst of all, I don't think these Sonic elements are going to factor into the plots of the later episodes. Rouge tries to psych out Knuckles, saying that the authorities will turn on their kind, and scares him by saying they might end up alone together. I love how furious Knuckles is about the idea of being locked up with her. I really hate how whorish her voice is, but I love how teasing she is. That's why I loved her in SX2. So I'm torn. Chris is worrying that the government will turn on Sonic and lock him up, just comes off as clumsy foreshadowing to that actually happening. So I'm only really assuming this because I read the X comic where it was referenced that this happened. But it does make sense in-universe because Chris already saw that Sonic was arrested in the SA2 ripoff and cried about it. And he's had abandonment issues, being clingy with Sonic for a long time. So he'd be worried about that, in the same way that Sally's always been scared of Sonic dying. I was shocked at how awful Vector's voice was. Wow, that was awful. It comes off as a literal parody, not an actual show thing. At least Espio's voice was badass. Vector is complaining about being stuck on Earth. And good, half of the moon is still missing. It was kind of comical that he lampshaded it. But Vector and Charmy's extremely lame voices really prove how horribly disgusting the Chaotix are outside of the comics. I can barely pay attention because it's so awful. Charmy gives him a newspaper with Vector tantruming, and he shows him a picture of Sonic, who Vector calls their old friend. Vector says that Sonic saved the world in SA2 reading the newspaper, and I'm expecting him to be jealous of him because for some reason the games thought making the Chaotix assholes enough to be bitterly jealous of Sonic for his reputation would be a good idea that would make them likable characters. I didn't miss any of their game-exclusive personality traits in Archie. I didn't even remember them. I didn't miss them being less heroic and more neutral. I didn't miss their jealousy of Sonic's good reputation, and I didn't even notice that they weren't detectives. Also, it's really inexcusable how much this episode is reusing previous episode footage of Sonic. We didn't need to see Sonic rescuing Cream. That really took me out of it. I hope this won't be a clip show episode, and I hope most animes aren't like this, where they reuse episode footage a lot. Because no other Sonic show is like that. Yep, Vector's jealous, and Charmy even lampshades this. I really didn't care about all this recycled footage. Vector brags about himself and says that he's a softie at heart. We'll probably never see that, but doesn't want people to know that. Charmy and Espio break the fourth wall by telling the audience their names and bragging a bunch. Wow, I never thought Sonic X would commit the horrible crime of breaking the fourth wall. Aside from a few times in AOSCH outside of the Sonic Says segments, that's never happened. And it's really jarring that it happens here. Something gets launched into space and it's a missile, which is heading for the moon. And the president is told about it. He says that Eggman's on the TV phone. There's a TV phone on Earth? Just call it Skype. Eggman says that he wants to mend the moon for him free of charge. Awesome! I actually suggested that maybe he did that to repair the moon in the games. He's obviously just doing this for good PR. I heard about this plot of Eggman's earlier. This is pretty brilliant. I mean, of course he wouldn't want to keep the moon like that. The moon gets fixed because he puts a metal shell around it. But the moon doesn't look the same as it did before. So no, that doesn't solve the problem with continuity, because you still have the problem where it has to look like half metal and half moon from now on for continuity's sake. I would rather have him fix the moon by making it look like a full regular moon, at least on the outside. Worst case scenario, you could have him take apart half of another moon and fuse it onto this moon, and it looks the same as before. Vector is tediously teased, and he says that he thinks Sonic's behind his friends being sent to Earth. You know, it's sad because logically, he should be right. It'd be much more convoluted if he wasn't right. It would make much more sense for Sonic to have gone to Earth on purpose, because how the hell do you accidentally send yourself and your friends to another universe? That's dumb! It'd make more sense if he was trying to send Eggman to another universe to seal him away. Like how Sadiam Robotnik was sealed away into the void. And he just got caught in the Chaos Control Blast by mistake. But I bet they won't confirm that, because that would be good writing. Vector spies on Cream and gets spotted by Ella and screams when she glares at him. Sonic then stops in a desert at seeing Eggman, and they both look apprehensive and intimidated, with Eggman standing at the edge of a cliff. Wait, a cliff? I wonder if Sonic was wondering if Eggman would jump off a cliff from guilt over being evil. He'd never think he'd actually do that, but I mean, is he thinking about that as a hypothetical scenario? Because he's right at the edge of a cliff with no clue as to what he's doing. SBO says that Amy can swing a mean mallet, and yet she still didn't break down the door in the pyramid base. That they really shouldn't have given her a hammer in the show. They should have given her like a laser shooter or a crossbow, not something as worthless as a hammer that barely does anything at all in the show. Sonic asks Eggman what he's up to and calls him Egghead, and Eggman at least has convincing acting when he lies that he's had a change of heart. He says that it's hard work to build evil robots, lying by telling the truth. Wait, he says he created chaos? Good! That makes sense in Sonic X, because it's on Earth. It's really good acting on his part, and I like that Sonic says he doesn't buy it, and says it's just another one of his schemes. You know, Eggman retiring would make sense in Sonic Boom because he's not pure evil over there. Tails tells Chris that he's never seen the Chaotix before in his life. And Vector plans on kidnapping Cream. Wait, what? And he calls Ella a bodyguard monster and tries to get Charmy to threaten her, and they start fighting. This is so dumb. This is the definition of stupid. This is a disgrace to the Chaotix's characters. It's sad when even Ken Penders wrote them better. I never had a problem with them there, aside from hating Vector. Sonic is accused of kidnapping them. Vanilla shows up out of nowhere, and Vector has a crush on her. Really? I love that idea, but I thought that was just in a fanfiction. They do a great job of making it heartwarming that Cream reunited with Vanilla. They had it take a while, and played some nice music as they hugged with an anime background. But that doesn't change the fact that she just got her mother handed to her instead of earning a major victory. Like, this is an action series. They should have had Sonic collect all the emeralds and get Chaos Control going, and that's how they should get her. Sonic calls himself Sonic the Kidnapper, making fun of and lampshading Vector's bad writing. And the camera pans upwards as he continues to taunt Vector because the animators saw a way to get out of animating Sonic talking and went with it. And Eggman calls Sonic a sucker because they decided to completely give away the so-called twist that he's still evil way too early. And the episode ends with SBO still lying down with a ridiculously large bump on his head and asking his friends who aren't there to help him out. This isn't funny, it's disturbing. This was a terrible episode. Even if I do love the brilliant idea of Eggman fixing the moon to gain people's trust, though it better look like the actual moon later on, with good explanation, because that metal shell is off-putting. And how did he get enough metal off ceiling to do that? And how did he accomplish that in just 10 minutes? There's so much reused footage, and Vector reading about Sonic's heroism was no excuse for it. It was to the point where I worried it would be a clip show. But more importantly, this plot is dedicated to reminding me of how horribly off the Chaotix are outside of Archie. There, they were perfectly respectable characters who were great at fighting on Knuckles' side. The only character I hated was Vector, because he never got over his dumb suspicion of Julie. But here, they're horribly failed attempts at comedy characters. Making a character in an action series incompetent to be funny is one of the Sonic franchise's most common mistakes. It sucked with Antoine, it sucked with Marine, it sucks with Amy and Knuckles, and it sucks here. I never laughed at these guys. I just fucking hated them. Vector's voice shocked me with how bad it really was, and it came off as a parody, as something unreal because it's so unprofessional of the show. Speaking of unprofessional, how about the characters breaking the fourth wall to brag about themselves and introduce themselves to the audience? At least in Sonic Boom, that's established to be a normal thing, and the show's whole identity from the start. That's what they're trying to go with for the show. Even if I don't approve of that. I don't think they should be targeting that kind of audience. I'm surprised that kind of audience has the attention span to even care enough to watch an entire TV show and dedicate themselves to caring about another continuity than the games. Sonic Boom is more about fourth wall breaking and not trying to care about getting you invested. But here it's just jarring. Everything about the Chaotix here is jarring. I've been so used to the Chaotix from Archie and Fleetwood, where they were respectable heroes, that I can't stand their expected standard characterization anymore. Not even Espio is portrayed completely seriously, and he's supposed to be the serious type. Why have a serious foil and make fun of him too? That destroys the whole point then. Why have all three of them be comedy relief? The Chaotix here are a neutral detective team with a bitter jealousy of how Sonic's got a great reputation. I used to find their unique gimmicks from the games interesting. Now I just find them unlikable and pointless because I've seen how they are in Archie, and how the lack of all those elements makes them more likable. I've seen how they can be fine characters. Archie makes up a huge chunk of their history because there's so many issues. And I like them better there because they're genuine heroes. And they're respectable because they're not being failed attempts at comedy that tries so hard to be funny and fails because it makes no logical sense. You had no reason to believe that Sonic kidnapped people. That's not funny, that's bad writing. And Vanilla had no justification for showing up. Neither did the Chaotix. There's no ultimate annihilator weakening the barriers between zones or anything. I'd rather have them be respectable heroes than absolute trash like this. Maybe if a person laughs really easily, they'll like their portrayal as comedy characters because they're comedy characters. But I just found this a boring and tedious episode where there's shockingly no action whatsoever. Usually Sonic fights a giant robot once an episode. For once, deviating from the formula was a bad thing. I mean, did we really need even more friends of Sonic who are completely incompetent jokes? Sonic X doesn't suck because of Chris. It sucks because it's everything that sucks about modern Sonic. Not only is there a shift away from the vital focus on action that makes Sonic good in favor of failed attempts at comedy, which just creates a boring void of dullness in the process, but Sonic's overpowered and all of his friends are incompetent. Literally all of them. Not even Tails is worthwhile. They barely get to do anything and are completely pathetic when there's so many more of them around. This kind of portrayal of Sonic's friends is part of why some people hate them. Because here, they really are Sonic's shitty friends, when they could be so much better. The hate would be so prominent if most of his friends were at least half as useful as he was. In Archie, Rotor was useful like 71 times. Instead, they're just useless comedy characters, which only helps to prove that the overemphasis on comedy is killing modern Sonic. It makes me long for the days of the older cartoons because at least they had a smaller cast. So it was more forgivable that there were a few characters who were incompetent and Sonic was way more important than them. At least AOSCH kept it simple with just Sonic and Tails. That show is admirable compared to this. You can be funny without being horribly off with the characters, just look at Fleetway. I laughed a lot because of how silly it could get with its light-hearted stories and Sonic's sarcastic lines. And it had Amy and Tails be so useful that I gave up on listing all the times they did stuff because there are too many for me to count. Here, I might as well make a list of all the times Sonic's friends weren't useful.